So we have the lands back from the RTS games that we know exist but are not yet in the game. We know all humans were essentially made from a few rebellious cycle, but then we had an entire group of Titanforge that rebelled in some sort of a secret zone, possibly hundreds of thousands of years ago, that could literally at this point be bigger than the whole of the Eastern Kingdoms, and this could literally be an entire undiscovered unique civilization. We have a bunch of pirate islands, we have an entire underground city that is not yet available in the game, and most importantly, we have a potential entire old god continent that could be the true relic of the Black Empire and unlike anything we had ever seen before. We all know the map is cluttered as it is, but seriously, there are like 5 regions Blizzard already set up that they could introduce tomorrow that could be an entire expansion's worth of content. So what are these secret regions, what do we know about them, and how much potential is there really? If you guys are looking to buy Dragonflight or anything Warcraft related, Gamivo has some amazing sales that you can check out with my link. On top of that, you can get software, gift cards, various games at crazy prices. Best of all, you can use my code DORON to add yet another discount to your purchase, so make sure to click my link below, check out Gamivo, and grab some amazing deals. Well, you may be thinking, what other possible landmass can we get? The map of Azeroth is as cluttered as it is. I definitely agree. They literally had to move Kalimdor a bit more to the left like recently in order for the Dragon Isles to fit and for the map to not just be a complete cluttered mess. You also maybe thinking, we've had like 10 expansions, what else can they get that is not a brand new planet or some universe-destroying threat? But the reality is that the WoW lore, the lore of WoW is quite vast. There are still a bunch of lands right on Azeroth that we know exist, that are yet to be added and available in the game. Sure, a lot of them are just these tiny isles, but some of them can be an entire continent, like literally the size of Kalimdor. They can even be bigger than Kalimdor in the Eastern Kingdoms. So, a very interesting observation, and one of the older speculations is that we have never truly seen the real globe of Azeroth and what it really is. Sure, we can see globes everywhere, but a lot of them are Titan sourced and a lot of things could be hidden from these globes. An interesting point is, if we use our earthly logic to Azeroth, is that we are missing the other part of the planet. Azeroth at the moment is not really like our planet. It's not like it is cold in the south and the north and then you have a bunch of deserts and hot lands in the middle. Currently, it is kinda cold in the north and really hot in the south, mostly hot in the south. If this logic exists, there could literally be another Northrend that could be hiding beneath Pandaria, and that in itself could be a crazy continent. With all these recent hints of us expecting a new continent to the west of Kalimdor, maybe this continent is hiding to the south that no one is going to see coming. Other than this mysterious continent, we actually do have some named islands and lands that exist that could be added in the very near future. If you remember, just a few years back, the Dragon Isles that we knew existed were just this weird little obscure fact that you would probably watch in some YouTube video like 10 Secrets of WoW, and now all of us are playing on these lands. Now, I'm guessing a lot of you guys know some of these isles, so I'm not going to bore you with a list of some super obscure tiny islands that we have like 3 inhabitants on, but I'm going to bunch them up into one point, and I'm also going to cover a few other potential zones that are a lot more than just some pirate or some Murloc base. So first off, we have a zone known as Balor that was actually a thing back in Warcraft 2, and since then it has literally been a complete mystery. This was actually a domain, I guess sort of a vassal of the Kingdom of Stormwind, and it was a land naturally quite close to Stormwind City to the west of it. During the first war, it was taken over by the orcs, it was held by the orcs since that war, and ever since that point, it was literally just a mystery. Back in Chronicle, Blizzard purposefully said they wanted to keep the location hidden so that they could use it as content. They don't really want to lock down the location that they would later need to retcon if they come up with something else. This is not a Dragon Isles type thing, more like a small domain, but it's still weird that its fate was never really confirmed. What if the orcs remained on this island, or it was never taken over by the humans again? Why has no one really mentioned it ever since? I'm guessing if we get an island expansion, this could be a part of the content. Second, we have a bunch of other small isles that we can't really say they're small because there's not really much information, but they're definitely not continent sized. I've covered a lot of these in the potential naval combat pirate expansion video that you guys can check out, but we have Tel'Abim, Plunder Isles, some small South Seas Isles, and a few others that are really not that notable. Plunder Isle and Tel'Abim are especially important out of all of these. Tel'Abim is a little bit of a meme island because in most contexts it is mentioned due to Tel'Abim bananas. However, it was actually quite recently mentioned in the new 10.0.7 pirate journals with Night Squall, and if you want more info on that, I have an entire video covering that topic. However, Plunder Isle is a whole different story. This is actually the land of the Bloodsail Buccaneers, and they have their capital here known as Bloodsail Hold. It isn't that big. We know that this land is close to Kezan and Zandalar. It is apparently super rocky, super unhospitable, and there are a lot of dangerous creatures such as murlocs and basilisks. The reason I'm mentioning this land is because this legendary newly mentioned pirate that apparently visited the dark side, potentially the dark side of Azeroth, mentions Plunder Isles, and he's gathering a crew of Bloodsail pirates and the Defias Brotherhood. And as you guys know, the Defias are super relevant right now with the Human Heritage questline. If the Bloodsail Buccaneers are relevant, then this place could be a significant part of the new expansion. Probably not an entire zone, but it could definitely be patch content. However, all this is not really that important. Let's get into the real meat, the real info, and a bit more than just a tiny island or some meme island. So we have Kezan. Now, you may be thinking, I mean, we already have Kezan, it is literally on the map, but Kezan that we do have is this goblin starter scenario, very limited, it isn't the entire land. Most importantly, there is the city of Undermine, which is a huge underground complex, and Blizzard actually planned to include this originally in Classic, but it was just too much work at the time. Why I think this could be relevant right now is not just so we can get a goblin expansion, but because this could all be Titan related. There has recently been a ton of Azeroth on Kezan, and we know there are a lot of hints of Azeroth even before. It might be a goblin secret and the reason for that massive explosion. Now, why there is Azeroth here could mean that there is something incredibly important to the World Soul, and there could be possibly, of course, yet another Titan facility close to Undermine. It could be possible that the goblins dug too deep and did something to it. Depending on how Dragonflight goes, we could definitely get some decent story development for this expansion to happen. So we could get Underground Kezan. Blizzard might even be experimenting with Zarla caverns right now to see how the players would respond to underground zones and whether it would be really worth doing. We could get a goblin storyline of them reclaiming their home. There could be Titan and all that stuff, and most importantly, a bunch of these other isles could be mentioned as well and included because they're really not that important as an expansion in themselves. I mean, they're not really standalone content. However, next down the line we have something that is, and next down the line we have Avaloren. I know all of you guys probably heard about this, so I'm not going to bore you too much with the details, but I just want to mention the potential that this place has. I mean, keep in mind, Avaloren could just be Dragonflight content, but if it's not, it could literally be a whole new continent. So the story goes that some Titanforged rebel against the Keepers and bunker themselves up in Avaloren. That is all that we currently know. The Titan Keepers tried to exterminate him, but they couldn't, so they just left him alone. All this happened long before the Sundering, so this place is not even present on the map. It could definitely have been cloaked because we know this cloaking mechanism exists in the Warcraft lore. Now, what you need to keep in mind is that a few rebels over the course of like hundreds and thousands of years could literally mean an entire planet-sized civilization by this point. I mean, it is just that ridiculous. Keep in mind, the humans, the dwarves that are so numerous today were just some rebel Vrykle and Earthen from a few thousand years back. So these Avaloren guys could literally be a brand new evolved Titanforged race that could be unlike anything we had ever seen before. Most importantly, because they never experienced the curse of flesh, and second, because they have been isolated from everyone else. So literally with this new info, Blizzard really set themselves up super nicely. They could just come up with whatever they want, and we could literally get a new continent with content that we had never seen before. This civilization could be quite crazy. Since they rebelled against the Titans, they could have completely abandoned their Titan heritage and done something entirely different, and this goes perfectly in line with the recent Dragonflight Titan lore. Now, the most important, the hidden, the secret region, and what all of you know is the dark side of Azeroth that has recently been talked about into the ground, and I don't really want to go too crazy on this. I made entire videos, there's so much content with this. However, this hidden dark western continent could literally be Avaloren, or it could be something entirely different. The shortest summary possible is this. The Dragonflight book from Deathwing's library revealed that the Titans didn't order Azeroth as we were told, and that there was something they hid beyond the waves because they couldn't remove the old god presence. Then, even more recently, we got hint of this Night Squall, this legendary pirate that apparently was the only one to have ever returned from a place west of Kalimdor, and he brought Plunder back. That really is the extent of the evidence, but even this little bit of information is just huge. My opinion is that there could be some critical land mass of the Black Empire that they couldn't reshape, so the Titans used the cloaking mechanism just like how they used it in the past, and to hide it from us, to quite literally sweep it under the rug, hoping no one ever reaches this place. I'm guessing Deathwing probably learned where this place was. This could be the place where the 5th Old God is, this could be where the actual World Soul of Azeroth is, and maybe the Old Gods were already successful in corrupting it, so it had to be isolated from everything else, and most importantly from the Old Gods themselves, so that they couldn't finish the process. If they now free themselves, this might be their one destination they need to reach, which could really transition into the next expansion. So despite the fact that a lot of people think WoW is over and that Blizzard is just completely out of ideas, I mean, literally here we have at least 3 expansions worth of content that could be happening right now on Azeroth without needing a new planet or anything portal related or really anything related to the cosmology whatsoever. Thank you for watching. Check out why Shadow Flame is the most powerful magic in existence by clicking on the screen, and check out Don's Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.